Just like clockwork, every election cycle that rolls around, I show up. See, that's how it happens here in Horry County. The issues pop up, and there's a show called Politically Speaking, and it's back. And on today's edition, we're going to talk about District 56, newly created, and why you should pay attention to this race. Coming up on Politically Speaking.
Welcome to Politically Speaking. On today's show, we'll take a look at the race for South Carolina House District 56. Now, here's your host, Jack Murphy.
Well, it seems like we do this every election cycle that rolls around. You know why it seems like that? Because we really do. And when we first started this program, Carolina Forest was just an area where you'd have a house or two, and there were some grand dreams of more and more people moving to this area. Well, now, as many of us know, the Carolina Forest area is one of the fastest growing areas, not only in our state, but in the country. Phenomenal. And the interesting part of that district, which we'll be talking about on today's Politically Speaking, is a newly created political district. House seat 56, which is kind of a unique thing unto itself, because so many dynamic people from other parts of the country are there, including a candidate we're going to chew the fat with on today's edition. Hello there, Dennis DiSabato.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, my friend. Before we get into like the nuances of this district and the issues and stuff, I want to know about you. I want to get a little info on you, the candidate.
Well, I'm a real estate attorney. I do mostly transactional work. I do a lot of closings for people. I moved here about 7 years ago to be closer to my family, into the Carolina Forest community, and it was in the middle of all the rapidly growing, the rapid pace that we had out there in Carolina Forest.
With that growth, I mean, how did you know that was going to be the area you chose? Did you vacation in this area growing up as a kid?
Well, as a kid, we used to come up here with my family, but my parents had moved into that Carolina Forest area about 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. My brother had moved here shortly after that. My aunt, uncle, and grandfather all followed. So my family is located all around Carolina Forest in the Forest Brook area. And so when I decided to come here to be closer to them, I just moved into the Carolina Forest area. And as you know, over the last 10 years, we've had about a 500% population increase in that area.
Yeah. And still continues to grow.
There's room for 30,000 more residents back there.
And I would not be surprised if we don't close on that really fast, because the area has so much to offer. And the political game is an interesting twist, because with all this growth, it's not incorporated. You know, there used to be this old phrase bannered about when we were forming this great country of ours: taxation without representation. And you know, I'm sure that living out there, that might have had something to do with you jumping into the political fray.
Well, sure, yeah. I helped organize an organization called the Carolina Forest Civic Association, and that group was responsible for giving a voice to the community that was largely being ignored by our local leaders and our state delegation. And what we did was we endeavored to try and bring some attention to that area and its needs.
Well, the location of the district itself is quite interesting. I mean, when we say district, we focus on Carolina Forest, but it encompasses a little bit more.
It's a huge district. It's not just Carolina Forest. It runs from the waterway up 501. It catches pieces of Forest Brook, mainly the Arrowhead community. Comes up through Carolina Forest, some parts of Conway, the Wild Wing communities, along Highway 90 out to almost Long, so out to Highway 9 in Longs. So wow. It's a very big district.
Tremendous, yeah. And what folks are wanting or expecting from government is a little bit different too, some nuances. Yeah. Well, it's interesting when people go to the polls and vote this year, because we have this thing called petition candidates. Yeah. I've heard about that, I've heard that phrase, but I've never seen anything like what we're seeing this year.
Yeah, I think we had the perfect storm of politics in this electoral season. Everything that probably could have gone wrong went wrong. We had some competing state laws, conflicting state laws with regard to how to file certain paperwork when we were filing as candidates. We were instructed to do something one way, and the Supreme Court had decided that was incorrect. So about 250 candidates across the state had been thrown off the ballot. And a lot of us went to work really hard at a grassroots level to try and get what's known as petitions filled out by registered voters in the district. And in District 56, I was able to do that. We got enough signatures to find our way back onto the ballot as a petition candidate.
A lot of work.
It was a tremendous
just to get your name on the ballot.
A tremendous amount of work, yeah.
Well,
but I had a great volunteer team and a great group of supporters that helped me do it. So.
I'm hearing some wonderful things about your volunteer team.
Yeah, we have a great volunteer team.
Which speaks volumes about your organization. But I want to talk to those folks who are just beginning, maybe seeing you for the first time. We're going to take a breather here on Politically Speaking, and we're going to have the candidate tell you why he not only wants your vote, but why you should vote for Dennis DiSabato coming up on the election right after this.
As they say in Horry County, time's a-wasted to cut the big government and wasteful spending we see in the General Assembly. Our tax dollars often get spent to help other areas of the state, while Horry County gets ignored. As a true conservative candidate for the new House District 56, Dennis believes we must cut the size and waste in our state government, while making sure the necessary services like roads and public safety are provided to our citizens. On Tuesday, let's put an end to wasting time and money on big government. Vote Dennis DiSabato, House District 56, your true conservative candidate.
I have served with Dennis on the Carolina Forest Civic Association board and got to see his temperament, how he works with people. He's a tremendous consensus builder. We had lots of heated discussions on many issues, and when the room would get the most heated, Dennis always stayed cool and brought us together somehow. And then would go out as the president. He would go out and act on the issues that were facing him. He's not afraid to pick up the phone and speak to any public official on the behalf of the citizens of Carolina Forest. And that makes me rest easy. I come from a family that's done a lot of public service, charitable work, out at meetings almost every night of the week. And after knowing Dennis for over 2 years now, he's that type of person. He's never home at night. He's always at a civic function or a charitable event, doing something for the community, political things. This is just his calling. And I know that I'm putting in 4, 5, 6 weeks of working hard as a volunteer with him, going door to door, and anything I can do to help to get us the representation that I know that we need, because I know the issues that we face in this area. And I know that I'll be able to go to sleep at night after November 6th if we elect Dennis, which I hope we will, and I'll be able to rest easy knowing that we have really competent, prepared, excellent leadership in Columbia.
You're watching Politically Speaking, and our spotlight is on the newly created House seat, District 56. Kind of a diverse area, mostly on Carolina Forest, where you have really gone out there and gotten involved in a lot of things. I mean, you live there, and it wasn't one of those situations for you where you said, okay, there's a newly created, let's give this thing a try. I mean, you've really been out there before really the district was even drawn, getting involved in the day-to-day issues that affect residents out there.
Absolutely. When I first relocated here, I got involved with some civic associations, civic organizations like the Sertoma Club, and they were basically just charitable organizations that we did a lot of work with. Local charities like the Grand Strand Miracle League, the Boys and Girls Club, PD Speechineering, Fostering Hope, Autism Advocacy. I mean, if you name a charity in Horry County, we've helped work and raise some money for it. And that led to my participation in the Leadership Grand Strand program, and that's really where I started to learn a lot about state government, state agency. We did a lot of community service projects. I worked hammering nails into wood for Habitat for Humanity community out there in the middle of the district, actually, along Ron McNair Boulevard. And then at the point that I graduated there, we were really starting to notice the influx of growth in the community and the fact that a lot of the things that we needed out there weren't getting addressed. We saw projects like the Ainer Overpass getting addressed before infrastructure needs in Carolina Forest. So a small group of concerned citizens and business owners in Carolina Forest got together around a round table of 15, 20 people, and we said, what are we going to do to try and bring some recognition to the community? And that was the seeds of the Carolina Forest Civic Association. 5 or 6 of us got together. We created a bylaws drafting committee. I was on that committee. We helped draft the mission statement for that organization. And I served on its first board of directors as its secretary, and then in the second year of that organization's existence, I became the president. And the first thing that I did as the president was, let's go out to the community, figure out legislatively what their concerns are. And we did a legislative survey to figure out what do people really have on their minds about what they think they need in Carolina Forest. And through that, we started to bullet point some of the issues that needed to be focused on. And things popped up even that weren't on that survey. So as the leader of that organization, I took a charge and gave the community a voice on a lot of different issues. The one that comes to mind most is Conway water. There are citizens in the Carolina Forest community that are being charged nearly 200% the fair market value for their water, and it's being done by the city of Conway, even though that there's no accountability to those citizens. So I fought against that at City Council. I fought against it in private meetings with Bill Graham and Alice Lawson, and we didn't really get much of a response, and that's a large reason why I decided to run for this House seat, because I know that I have a good plan in place to try and attack that and roll back those rates for people who are being overtaxed, basically, by people who they have absolutely no accountability.
Now, although this is for Carolina Forest, this is a situation that has duplicated itself in other municipalities and towns all across the state.
It happens all over the state, yeah. And it's a problem for people when you're being charged a fee or a tax and you don't have the ability to go and seek redress with the people who are charging you those fees and taxes. That's a problem, and I think that we can find creative solutions and good government in Columbia to make sure that things like this don't continue to happen.
I can only imagine the challenges that residents have when they already have the system in place. It's, you know, there's this adage, you can't fight City Hall. You guys don't even have a City Hall.
No, I mean, but it didn't stop us from fighting.
Exactly.
It didn't stop us from fighting.
It's a whole different animal there.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's a wonderful community. I've heard it referred to as the melting pot of Horry County. I think that's true. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of different people from a lot of different places that have chosen to live in Horry County. They've chosen to put their lives here. And I think that we owe them more than what they were getting. And we did a good job of that with the Civic Association from a grassroots level, trying to bring awareness to some of those issues. And now I think I have the leadership experience and consistent track record to do the same for that community in Columbia, and that's why I'm running for this race. You know, there's a lot of issues out there. I mean, we could go through infrastructure spending and the Library and Rec Center. Those projects, they were appropriated years before I ever moved to Horry County. But they just kept getting postponed and postponed and postponed. And until somebody stood up and gave a voice to that community saying, listen, we can't be ignored anymore, then they started to get addressed. And that's what I'd like to do in Columbia. I think that I have the ability and the track record to work with people, to bring good government, to make sure that the needs of the communities are being addressed, and I think I could do the same thing for Horry County and Columbia.
Is there a good, if elected or when elected, however you'd like to phrase that, would there be a good working relationship with the other delegation? Because that's obviously important too, because you're serving the needs there, but those needs are expanding out.
Sure. In my role as the president of the Civic Association, I've had to work with not only our leaders on county council, but with our state delegation. And I've developed relationships with those people. Sometimes it was strained, but we were always able to come to some common solution that was good for the community. And I think through the years of working in that capacity, I've developed relationships with people at the county council level as well as the state delegation. And I think that we've been able to put together a cohesive group of people that understand the needs of Carolina Forest and are willing to work together to achieve those goals.
Well, we're going to touch on a couple of other easy questions that pop up. They're simple: why and how. Why someone should cast a vote for you, and then because of the petition candidate, I got to touch on it. How you go about doing that come election day.
Okay.
All right. More Politically Speaking continues right after this.
The newly created State House District 56 means that finally the Carolina Forest area will have its own political representative to work for the needs of our citizens. Dennis DiSabato is candidate for that new seat and has already served Carolina Forest and its surrounding communities as a founding member and past president of the Carolina Forest Civic Association. In that capacity, he has worked hard to give a voice to that community. When you have a problem that needs the help of your local House representative, you don't want to waste a lot of time getting answers. Dennis knows many of you and knows the problems we face in District 56. On Tuesday, he asks for your vote. Isn't it about time you had a representative who works for you?
I've known Dennis DiSabato for several years now, and in that time we've worked on several community service projects and fundraising efforts together. We worked for organizations such as the Grand Strand Boys and Girls Club, Habitat for Humanity, Grand Strand Miracle League, and the Salvation Army. And Dennis just isn't one of those people that says he's going to volunteer and shows up at the end of the day. He's actually there when the work's getting done. For a prime example, he was out there building the Habitat house for us, sweating, getting his hands dirty. Dennis is a wonderful candidate, and I will be supporting him next Tuesday.
My wife and I live in South Creek, which is part of Carolina Forest. for some time, water rates have been a problem there.
And I don't know of anyone who has tackled this problem better than Dennis. And for that reason, we are supporting Dennis and asking that you vote for Dennis as well on Tuesday.
As president of the Carolina Forks Civic Association, I have known Dennis for several years. He is a person of great character and integrity, and for those reasons, along with his work ethics and his commitment to our community, I will be voting for Dennis this Tuesday, November 6th.
Politically Speaking continues. Dennis DiSabato is our guest. District 56, newly created. A lot of issues out there, Dennis. What are some that we haven't really jumped into on this particular broadcast today?
Well, yeah, I've hit over 1,000 doors in that community while I was going through this campaign, and the things that people are most concerned about are roads and schools, obviously. We're overcrowded in our schools as they are. We just built a new elementary school in that area, and now we've got 3 elementary schools feeding into 1 middle school. I know parents were concerned about quality of life issues with realigning the school district. I had parents that were calling me that were concerned about that. We got involved with the Horry County School Board and figured out ways to better use the space that we were having, but obviously there's going to be needs for more schools out in that area with the pace of growth in that community. Infrastructure projects like road widening and bike paths, there's not enough money at the county level in order to get those things done. They've just kept getting pushed further and further back until we stood up and voiced our concerns, and some of those issues got addressed. You know, and I just think safety, you know, we need to do more to keep the community safe, and you know, those are some of the things that I hope to be able to address in Columbia. I think the one thing that we can do is eliminate the one-size-fits-all tax structure that we have in the state, where every community is treated the same. Not all communities are the same. Different communities have different needs, and I think we need to find a way to bring, you know, more of the revenue that we're sending to Columbia every year back to Horry County so that the local government can use it and not raise the sales tax by a penny every time they need to build a school or a road.
Yeah, the cookie cutter approach it never works, and if you come from a big family, you recognize that, because mom and dad have to take a different approach with how they even raise each individual kid in the family.
Absolutely.
And family is important to you, because it was something interesting. I came down here, but I left my family. You followed yours here. What's up with that? I couldn't wait to get away.
It doesn't happen often.
It's an interesting situation.
It is. My dad and my mom have been small business owners for 35 years. They started out, my dad started out working as a carrier for postage meters with Pitney Bowes, moved into a pizzeria at a pizzeria in Manhattan, and then he got into the boar's head business, which he's been doing for I think about 32 years now.
Wow.
So I've grown up in that business. From the time I was able to work, I was working in small business. From the time I was able to understand what some of that was, you know, I saw the strains that were put on small business by government just by seeing what my parents went through. And you know, I kind of had my rebellious period, and I said I'm going to go to law school, and it didn't take me very long to realize that it wasn't the white-collar job that was appealing to me. It was actually being a business owner, so I took the opportunity to come down here and start my own practice. And I did that so I could be nearer to my family. They had moved down here about 11 years ago. My brother and my sister-in-law, who were very excited, they're expecting in January.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. They're expecting in January. They moved down a couple years after my parents did. Like I said, my aunt and my uncle and my grandfather, who passed away a few years ago, they were all down here. And so I decided to come and be closer to them. And we're a typical Italian-American family. You know, there's a lot of laughter, there's a lot of tears, a lot of shouting. Every Sunday it's Mass, and then afterwards we go to Mom's house for dinner, and usually have a crowded table full of people who are arguing and laughing and having a good time. But, you know, we're all concerned about the things that are happening in the community, and we're all very proud of each other and the things that we've been able to accomplish in this community, and it's really the reason why I've gotten involved. My parents have instilled those values in me. My dad always told me, give back to the community that you serve. And that's really why I've been as involved as I've been involved, and now I'm looking to take this to the next level.
Well, that's really where the rubber hits the road, because coming from a similar background of being in small business and family business, you know, you go into that wanting to be your own boss, that rugged individualism, that freedom. But it turns out that everybody that you come in contact with ultimately as a customer or as a colleague is your boss in a roundabout way.
Absolutely.
And so that service to mankind comes out as a business owner.
Service to Mankind, Sertoma Club, that's the organization I got involved with. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't realize it until you're actually doing it, but everybody who walks through that door is your boss. You're not theirs. And I feel the same way about this community. I mean, if I'm elected to serve, I'm here to serve the community and their needs. So my doors are going to be open. You know, my phone calls are going to be answered, and I'm there for them. And I've told that to many people whose doors I've knocked on over the last couple of weeks, that I'm here for you, and I want you to be able to feel free to come in and talk to me. If there's anything that you're concerned about, we'll figure out a solution.
Well, coming up on Election Day, it's going to be interesting. The petition candidate thing is looming large for you and other candidates. How does that work on Election Day for folks? What should they expect?
It's going to be a confusing situation because I think this is the first time where we've seen so many petition candidates. I think this race is unique in the fact that neither candidate in the general election has been certified by a political party. So regardless of how you lean, if you cast a straight party vote in this race, you're not going to be casting a vote for either of the candidates in the District 56 race. So what I've been telling people is the easiest and best way to ensure that you're voting in the District 56 race is to go through the ballot and go through each race individually. Vote for president, vote for U.S. Congress, vote for state senate, vote for the state house race, so on and so forth. If you're not inclined to do that and you vote straight party, I understand that if you hit the straight party ticket, you also have an opportunity to push the lever for Dennis DiSabato when you're voting in the State House District 56 race. Okay. And even if you don't do that, I understand that you'll be prompted at the end when you're confirming your ballot that you had not voted in a particular race. It'll let you know what race it is, and then you'll have an opportunity to go back in and cast your vote in that race then. So I just hope people really take the time to go through the ballot, because this is a historic election for the Carolina Forest area. It's very important. It's the first time we've had focused representation for that Forest Brook and Carolina Forest area and parts of that Wild Wing community. And there's a candidate that's been able to address those needs, and I think I'm that candidate. And so it's very important that people take their time and go through the ballot and make sure that they are casting a vote in that race.
You know, I'm sure you learned this from your father in the family business. You got to look a man in the eye and shake his hand. We can't shake the hand, but absolutely, I want you to look the voters in the eye and tell them why you expect their vote. Why should they vote for Dennis DiSabato coming up on Election Day?
I'm passionate about this community, and I have a consistent track record of leadership, servant leadership to this community. I've served this community for a long time. I've given a voice to this community when it didn't have one. I've worked hard to make sure that the issues and concerns of the people that live in this community were addressed, and I'll continue to do that in Columbia. And not only will I be doing it for this community, but I'll be doing it for the entire county. My door will always be open. I'll always be available to you because I'm here to serve you, and I hope you'll give me your vote on November 6th.
Thanks for a great campaign, and best of luck on Election Day.
Thank you.
For those of you watching Politically Speaking, do not go anywhere. Boy, we might just have some fireworks. Paul Gable joins us. It's always fun. It's kind of a tradition around these parts, and that's next on Politically Speaking.
I met Dennis DiSabato by phone a couple years ago. I think he was working with the Carolina Forest Civic Association. He was doing research to figure out how the city of Conway could charge such excessive rates for water to the residents of the Carolina Forest area. I told him what I knew about it, and I was curious about how he found me, and I was impressed that he did all that research to locate me and to get the facts together before he planned what he wanted to do. I told him that I thought the only thing that would solve it would be legislation. Dennis took that to heart and have talked to me about it several times since. There are two kinds of people that offer themselves for office. There are people who will tell you what they will do for you, and then there are the people that you can judge what they'll do for you in the future by what they've done for others in the past. Dennis is a doer.
Welcome back to Politically Speaking. One thing you can count on every election cycle is me sitting down with Paul Gable. That seems to be the way it has been for so long. How many years have you been in the county now?
29.
Yeah, 23 for me. And we've been bannering.
For most of those, really, it seems. And you know,
well, 17 years. I know we've been doing this because since I've been doing a television show here in the area.
Right.
You've always been popping up and spouting off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's spout off a little bit. You're at grandstranddaily.com. You got an illustrious career in the newspaper industry, journalism, investigative reporting. Good job through the years. Didn't always agree with you, but you went out and got the facts.
Thank you, Jack. And you want to talk about the District 56 race specifically?
Sure.
The new race, or the new district that basically is centered in Carolina Forest, but spreads out beyond that. But the Carolina Forest area is interesting. Both the candidates come from there, and it's you know, most of the voters for that district will now come from there, and they weren't here when you and I started doing these shows.
Oh, sure.
You think about that.
Yeah.
You know, I've been very impressed with the way that DiSabato has been able to get into the community. He worked with the Civic Association. He helped form the Civic Association. He's a past president of it. And he was interested and donated his time, so to speak, to the community to fight for issues like roads and water rates, this kind of thing.
Sure.
His opponent kind of has been a mystery until he decided to run. In fact, when you look at the background, the first time he voted down here was the 2010 general election, and the only other time he voted was the 2012 primaries. So I mean, he doesn't have a long voting record along a lot of things. He just seems like there was a seat that opened up, and you know how it is. People come out of the woodwork for a new seat because they think they'd like to be. Yeah. But I think Dennis has been involved in the community and tried to help things along, make things work, and make things better, and he sees a chance to go on. And I believe his ground game, the amount of volunteer support he has and what have you down there, will work well for him in the upcoming election.
You say that when you've gone out to some of these events, and if there's food there, you're at the events. But he's got those volunteers, and that means a lot of people are being bought into the vision, and that's part of a good campaign.
I have been to some events where his volunteers outnumbered the volunteers of all the other candidates there combined.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean that shows that there's some kind of a grassroots support that believes that he can help them.
So how are things shaping up as we go into the final days of the campaign? I mean, any issues out there that you're hearing, what people are talking about, what people are wanting?
Well, I think Carolina Forest wants to be represented. You know, Carolina Forest has felt like it's been ignored, and you know, in a lot of ways it has, but it's not an incorporated community. This is their first chance to have a real representative live in the community and represent them, you know, more specifically than they've been represented to this point. And, you know, locally, when you talk about locally and local representation and stuff, Dennis's opponent got his signs from Alabama and has had his printing done in Columbia. And Dennis has done it locally. And frankly, I've always felt that if a candidate wants to represent a local populace, they ought to support the local businesses rather than going out and looking for the cheapest rate you can find. Maybe that's ignorant, but I've always felt that one hand helps the other.
Interesting perspective. As always, my friend, you bring interesting stuff to the table. I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Thanks, Jack.
The streak's intact. Another election cycle.
Another election cycle.
And Paul Gable's with us here on Politically Speaking. This program was paid for by the candidate. I was financially compensated, but Mr. Gable and those that took part in testimonials on this broadcast were not. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you get out and vote. It's an important election, not only for this particular race, but regionally, statewide, and nationally. Go out and exercise your wonderful right to vote. We appreciate you watching us. Have a great day.